God is good. Good to see everybody. We are in our series in the book of Hebrews. My app will do what it's supposed to do. Think it's going to work, and then it doesn't, right? The tools you have, they just don't seem to work like you want them to. And so do we as humans, right? We out of this idea that we want to, do more, right? You ever feel that? You're like, I want to do more for blank. I want more for the Lord. I want to do more for blank. And there's this never ending cycle that kind of entrenches us at times. Or like you feel like I just can't do enough, right? And that's sort of the burden that we bear. Sometimes we feel like we can't do enough. Right? And then there's other times where we feel like we have done enough, and that's a bad thing too, but that's kind of a whole nother sermon if we're talking about it in reality. But sometimes we carry this burden, this guilty conscience that, well, we can't do enough. And I think there's an answer to the way and why we feel that way at certain times. And oftentimes it's because when you love somebody, when you love something, you want to do, like there's this drive in you. I got to do more. I got to do something more, right? When you love, there's this drive that just, man, for my family, I got to do more. For my wife, I've got to do more, right? I've got to get more. I've got to have more. I've got to become more for the people in my life that matter the most. Or how about when you feel like you failed, right? When you feel like a failure. Well, it's like I can't make up for that. If I feel like a failure, I've got to do more so that I don't feel like a failure anymore. And if I feel like a failure, then I can't feel like I do enough. Or how about this? When somebody gives you a second chance, or you feel like you get a second chance at something or someone or a situation, or you messed up, you made a bad decision, you made a mistake, and you get a second chance, and then you're like, well, I've got to do more, right? I've got to become more. I've got to put myself in a place where I can feel like I'm adequate, right? Or how about when you feel indebted to somebody? Maybe somebody saved your life, or somebody inserted themselves in or a place at a time in your life, or a work situation or a family situation, and you feel indebted, right? You have this feeling of, I want to do more, right? And sometimes we feel like, well, we're doing more, but I don't feel like I do enough, right? Like I don't feel like I've given what was owed. And I think that stems from something that is just a part of human nature. We desire indispensability. I mean, if we could boil it down to one thing, we desire to be indispensable. If you know what this word means, it means to be, it's like when you're in a work position. Like I've got, I read this book several years ago. It was talking about becoming, it was called Linchpin. It's called becoming, basically the key to becoming an indispensable worker. Well, as I started reading this book, I started thinking about my dad. Because my dad's worked in the same industry for 30 years, but he's never been without a job. As the companies changed owners and switched names and moved places, he's never gotten laid off. Why? Because he has this indispensability, right? Maybe you're one of those people that you've become indispensable to someone or to something, and you desire this thing to be valued, right? You want to be a valued individual. You want somebody to look at you and say, you know what, that person is worth something to me. And it's innate in our human nature to want to be these things. We want to become indispensable. But this is also derived from a human problem. In reality, it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's derived from this idea of perfectionism, right? Anybody struggle with perfectionism? All right, you want things to be perfect. You want things to be like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Right? And it's going to be this way, and it's going to be this thing, and it's going to be absolutely without flaw, right? A lot of us can relate to this kind of idea. When you're building something, right? It's got to be flawless. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be, if you own a company or you're in the customer service industry and you do a job as a Christian, your job is to do things the right way. Don't cut corners. Don't move around boundaries. Try to do things the right way so that you can, and not just so you can build a reputation, but because that's the right thing to do. But the other angle that perfectionism causes is also fear and inaction, right? We have this idea, sometimes we fall on the other end of the spectrum, right? We want it to be perfect, but we don't think we can make it perfect. So there's this fear, and it's like, well, if I can't make it perfect, then I'm not even going to start, right? And that's the inaction part, right? If I can't make this the way that I think it should be, and we don't understand, I mean, the way that things move, it's like it could be a part of a, you know, whatever, right? It could be a part of, you're building something and you have this vision in your mind and you're like, well, if I can't get there and I know I can't get there, then I'm not going to do anything about it. And in perfectionism, you can allow fear to run your life, right? You can allow it to cause inaction in your life. You can allow it to give you setbacks in life. But I want to remind you what I reminded you of last week, and this is very, very important. I'm going to use the same bottom line because I think that it falls into Hebrews chapter 9 as an overall. It's not about what you do. You can't do enough. Nobody can do enough. You feel indebted to God. You can't do enough. Right? It's about what he's done. Period. End of story. Bottom line. It's not about what we do. Right? We cannot do enough to earn God's favor. We can't do enough to earn our salvation. We can't do enough to gain all of these things that we desire to gain, to become indispensable, to become of value, because that's already done. It was done through the gospel, the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus. It was already done. And sometimes we get this idea, it's like, well, I've got to put myself in a place where it's like, God, I mean, look what I've done for you. You're not going to be able to say that on Judgment Day. You're not going to be able to stand before the Lord and say, God, look at all the good things that I've done for you. I worship the right way. I love people like you said. You're not going to be able to say that. It's not going to be about that. It's going to come down to your relationship with Jesus. It's going to come down to, did you accept and receive his grace? And did you act in obedience? Did you act out of love for the Father and what he
Oh, I don't know where I am. Um,
Yeah, it died. Let's switch it up. I'm sorry. Now you have to please pause for this short interruption. All right, where were we? He says, there is no forgiveness without the shedding of blood. It had to happen this way. If it didn't happen this way, it's not going to work. It's not going to be in effect, is essentially what he's saying. Therefore, it was necessary for the copies, he's talking about the old law. It was not the thing that set us up. Right? It was not the thing that was supposed to be the forever thing. It was a copy, right, of the things in the heavens, a mirror, right? Essentially a human created diagram of the throne room of God, which he explains in 1 through 14, right? Of the things in the heavens to be cleansed with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these, right? In other words, like there was something better that happened here that we don't understand, that we don't grasp, that we can't comprehend, right? It was a better sacrifice overall, not just for, we don't think about this very often because we're not connected to the old law. We're not invested in a Jewish lifestyle. We're not invested in rituals and sacrifices and all of these different things that were so common to Jewish life. We're just not there. We don't understand it. We can read about it, but we don't understand the culture and the life that was surrounded that. This was ingrained in people. Like very ingrained. I mean, you think about it. Think about the things that you hold that you always held, that have never changed in your life. And then think about all of a sudden if somebody came in and they started trying to change things. What if somebody come into your house and they said, I'm going to rearrange all your furniture? Some of you, that wouldn't work. You'd be throwing a fit. Why are you rearranging all my furniture? Who are you putting my bed in the living room? Doesn't make any sense, right? Why would you do that? But this is what Jesus did with the old law. He came and he rearranged. Okay, the house is out of order. Let me rearrange the living room. Let me rearrange the bedrooms. Let me change things from the way that you think they should be, and not unrightfully so, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to flip everything upside down, I'm going to move everything around. And it was a better way, right? It was a better sacrifice. Ultimately, I mean, my wife and I, we just spent, 2 days rearranging the living room, only to move a chair about 16 feet. Okay, that was it. We spent the whole week moving furniture around and things like that, only to move the chair 16 feet from where it was originally. And yes, the setup, right? The setup is better because it gives me a great view of the TV when football's on. I mean, football season's coming up, right? It gives me a fantastic view of the TV. That's what I'm concerned about right now. That's on my mind, okay? But where it was it's okay, it works, right? I mean, I wish I would have taken a picture of this because you guys would have laughed at me. I had this big old fat chair sitting behind this, and look, this dinky little couch that has no back. Like, okay, I'm not a fan of couches with no backs, all right? This couch is made to sit up against the wall, and I'm a big guy, right? Like, so when I'm leaning back, I'm like looking at the ceiling, okay? We moved this couch around, and we're going to put it on this side, and we're going to make it L-shaped this way, and then we're going to put this chair over here, but then we're like, oh no, it doesn't have a plug, so now we got to find a place for the chair and then it ended up not even being that big of a deal. But it was a better setup. This is what the Hebrew writer's essentially trying to explain. It's like, yeah, you're set in your ways and you like things the way that you like things. But this is a better way. These are better sacrifices. This is a better hope. This is a better resurrection. This is a better overall thing. You don't even understand. You're not grasping the concept, and you're thinking about going back to Judaism? What's going on in your head? God has done away with it. Look what he says. For Christ did not enter a holy place made with hands, a mere copy of the true one, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. That's the power. There's the power. There's the promise. When God says it, it's as good as done. It's as good as done. Jesus is in the presence of God, not like a high priest in the Holy of Holies or in the place where you had imagined in this, tabernacle built living room, right? Where God supposedly dwelled, and yes, he did because God said he did, but this is not the end all be all. We got a system, right? He's in the presence of God, mediating and intercessing for us, and in that we can have hope and we can have comfort. That, you know what? It's not this man-made thing that we, try to chalk it up to be, right? Nor was it that he would offer himself often, right? Like as the high priest placed year by year, that is his own. But this high priest came in and offered his own blood on the Ark of the Covenant for the sins of all people, not just for one group of people. Sometimes we can't grasp this concept. This is a hard text to really grasp the idea, and that's why I try to boil it down to a series of messages, because that's what it is. If we can understand why the Hebrew writer's making this argument, we can understand better what we need to do and what the parallel is for our 21st century world. Otherwise, he would have been needed to suffer often since the foundation of the world. This is the high priest he's talking about. But now, once at the consummation of the ages, he is manifested to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. No man had ever done this. No man would ever do this. It had to be God himself, is essentially what the Hebrew writer is saying. Inasmuch as it is appointed for men to die once, after comes the judgment, so Christ also, having been offered to bear the sins of many, will appear a second time without reference to sin to those who eagerly await him. He's referencing the return of Jesus, not as a way to cleanse people from the sin, because he already did that, but to come and get those of us who eagerly await him. I mean, all of us are waiting. It's like, man, I can't express this probably properly in words, the joy I feel when I talk about meeting Jesus. Like, that's the one thing in this life. I read about him, I understand him, I talk to him all the time, I know he's right here. I constantly feel him, but I want to see his face. I want to have a conversation. That's the most important thing to me. I'm so eager. I want to meet him. I want to see him. I want to be with him. I want to do things with him. I want to understand why all these questions that I have that I can't necessarily answer right here on this earth, I'm going to get to ask when I get to go be with Jesus. And he reminds us, of the hope that we have going forwards. We're waiting for Jesus. I'm waiting for Jesus, but you're looking back. And so his point is essentially this, and this is kind of our takeaway, and the thing that we need to grasp in our minds as we go away this week. We don't need to try and earn what God has already given to us through Jesus. We don't need to try and earn. I mean, we feel like a lot of times we can't do enough, like we haven't earned it, right? You ever get something, you're like, man, I didn't earn this, right? Especially if you're a working person, like that's just how you work. It's like, well, I work to earn things. I remember, being a very little kid and going, hey, Mom, I need some money from the ice cream man. And she'd say, no, go mow lawns. That was back in the 90s when you could do those things. You can't do that anymore. But she would tell me, go earn it. So I'd go out and mow lawns, and I remember one summer I was out mowing lawns. I had $26, dude. I felt like a millionaire. I had earned every penny of that, mowing people's lawns that were, 15 feet long. It wasn't even that big. I was 5 years old pushing a lawnmower down the street, mowing people's lawns because I wanted cash for the ice cream man. I wanted to buy things, and I earned that money. And then there were times where, like, Christmas came around, and I had worked so hard for some things I was going to buy, and then my parents would give me things, and I'd be like, I didn't earn that. Why are you giving that to me? I didn't earn that. I didn't deserve that. I don't deserve to have that. And sometimes this is the transaction we make with God. It's like, well, I'm trying to, God, I'm trying to earn, like God, you got to give it to me, right? You don't have to give it to me. I can work for it. I can do it myself, right? This is kind of the way we think in our individualistic society. That's the way that we think. Well, I can do it myself, right? Everybody in here is capable of, well, maybe some of you aren't. Changing a flat tire, right? You can do it yourself. You can, right? But if you got AAA, they'll come and do it for you. Or you got some other service. You can hire somebody to come and do it for you, right? But that's not the way that we operate. I mean, especially as men, this is the way we think. It's like, well, I can change a tire. I mean, no big deal. I got a little nail or whatever in there. I can do it myself. Right? The individualistic society is prominent, and it floods into everything else in our life. And we try and earn the things that we get because that's the way that we feel is proper to do it. We don't feel like we deserve, right? We don't feel like we deserve what God has given us. We don't feel like we deserve what Jesus has done for us, mainly because we cannot comprehend fully what it is that he sacrificed on that cross. But we need to stop trying to earn what God has already given us. God has already given us all those blessings, all those spiritual blessings that come in Jesus. He's already given those to us. That eternal life that we so desire to see the Lord's face, he's already given it to us. We don't have to earn it. It's done. All we have to do is live in obedience. I mean, this makes so much sense when you think about it in contrast. Look, the only thing, there are essentially, I should say there's two things. But there's really one thing that drives all of it. And when you think about the people that were most impactful in your life. maybe it was mom or dad or grandpa or grandma or somebody in your, a mentor or a brother or a sister or somebody that took care of you, somebody that loved on you, somebody that helped you in your struggles and your times of struggle, where, you're like, well, because they did this, all of a sudden, I'm acting in a different way because I want to replicate that behavior. I want to do something good for somebody else. Relationships impact. They really do. If you have a relationship with Jesus, that impacts, and a true relationship, that impacts the way that you act and treat and talk and move and breathe and be and build up and share with people. That affects everything in your life. That relationship is the most powerful relationship, and it will lead you to eternity. We have to understand that this is not an earning game. This is a given game that comes with your willing obedience to His will. It's not an earning. God has given it to us. And in that, we can have comfort. If you have a need today, we're going to sing a song of invitation in a moment. We're going to also pick up in Hebrews chapter 10 next week. Well, we're kind of finished the segment and the section on the sacrifices. But if you have a need today, you can come forward as we stand and sing.